What's going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series. I have nicely unkept hair today because I just didn't feel like doing it, being a little bit on the lazy side. And I've decided to change the slogan for the series. I was actually getting some feedback about it. I had created this slogan, Maximum Truth, Minimum Video Editing, and I think first of all that's kind of a cumbersome mouthful. And I don't think it gets the point across of really what I'm trying to say. The reason my reviews are different from everyone else's is because I don't spend 100 years for production value. There's no fancy 3D splash graphics, there's no explosions and fancy voiceovers. It's just me talking about the game. And I guess when I said minimum video editing, that's kind of what I wanted to say, but really what I'm trying to say is you're going to get more content out of my review than you're probably going to get out of anyone else's mainstream review who might take, 4 or 5 minutes to talk about the game. They really don't say much about the game, but they give you 700 fucking explosions and shit on the screen and fancy graphics. So really, I think in its core what I'd like to say is maximum truth, minimum bullshit. That's what I'm going to call the Hateful Truth video game review series from now on, and I think it makes sense, okay? So today we're going to talk about my very first review of a portable video game. That's right. For the very first time, I'm actually going to review something for one of the handheld systems, and being that it is one of the newest handheld systems out there, and a lot of people are wondering, what my feelings are on the games for this system. I'm actually going to review the very first game for the system that I've completed, and it is Dungeon Hunter Alliance for the PS Vita, okay? And first of all, when I bought this, a lot of people were like, oh, why did he buy that game? Doesn't he know? And I was like, no, I don't know. What they were trying to basically say was this game has been out for PC, for mobile devices, for like 800 other things besides the PS Vita. And sometimes you can, at some forums, you can buy this game for 99 cents apparently, which I of course had no clue. For me, it really doesn't matter because I wanted to get a game for the PS Vita and see how it was. And I believe I paid something like 30 or 40 bucks for this game. I didn't realize that this game was made for other consoles. It was just ported to the Vita. Okay, so Dungeon Hunter Alliance, at its core, is an action-based dungeon crawling RPG that the best comparison that I can give it is probably to something like maybe Diablo, maybe Dungeon Siege. That style of game where you pick a class, whether it's the mage, the warrior, or the rogue, and each class has its special abilities. The rogue specializes in doing surprise attacks, stealth, double damage. The warrior is more like a tank where he's very defensive and he can hack and slash in there. The mage is all about tossing magic around the screen and using that to his advantage. And I played this game as a mage, okay? And basically, it's a bare bones game. And when I say that, I mean don't expect a huge story with encompassing, amazing character development or anything like that. It's at its core, it's a very action-based RPG, meaning what you do, you're going to go into a dungeon, there's going to be generic enemies coming at you, you're going to use your abilities to kill those enemies, they give you experience points and gold, sometimes they'll drop loot, and sometimes you'll find more rare loot, sometimes it'll be more common loot, which you can manually equip to your character to give them better stats. As you kill more enemies, you level up. As you level up, you unlock new abilities. You have the ability to up your stats. So if you're a magic user, obviously it makes sense to up your magic ability stats. Or if you're a warrior, you probably want to up your, say, endurance, which is like your defensive stats. That's the kind of stuff that you want to do with your character. And there are different bosses in the game, several different styles of bosses. It's not the same. I'd probably say there's probably about a dozen different kinds of bosses in the game, which is pretty good. Over a dozen dungeons, even though a lot of the times it is very repetitive. Some of the enemies are reused many times during the game. But at the same time, it's very addictive. It's the kind of game, like I said, like Diablo, like Dungeon Siege, that even though it's not about necessarily an overwhelmingly interesting story, you're not coming back to this game for the story. It's for the repetitive but addictive gameplay. You always want to go to the next dungeon because you're just a few experience points from the next level. You're just about a couple kills away from finding that next piece of epic loot that will make your character even more powerful and be able to bowl over your enemies. So in that regards, the game accomplishes what it wants to do. It hooks you on the game and you just want to keep playing it and going back to it. That being said, it's definitely not the kind of game that you really need to be paying attention that much. I'll be honest with you. Dungeon Hunter Alliance, I've played it for about a week and a half now, since I got my PS Vita, and I'll tell you when I play it. I don't play it just sitting here on the couch paying full attention to what I'm doing. Usually what I do, I work during the day, you know, playing whatever games, doing playthroughs for YouTube, doing reviews, whatever. And then at night when I'm relaxing, I'll turn on the TV, so I'll have that going. Maybe I'll start texting some people on my phone, and I might even have a drink or two just relaxing here on the couch, and then I bring it out. So it's kind of like the thing that I'm doing while I'm watching TV and I'm doing other stuff. I'm multitasking. So it wasn't exactly a game that really required 100% attention most of the time, okay? That being said, there are some times during the game where there are some pretty hard boss fights that really do take a lot of your attention, especially if it's the first time you're in a new dungeon and you're coming up against a new style of enemy that maybe has a status effect or something you're not expecting. Maybe they're a really damaging enemy that can kill you with only a couple hits. You need to pay attention. Healing. Healing is tackled in the traditional, again, Diablo style. You have potions that you can use to drink, and it'll get all your health back, and also the potions give you your mana back as well, so you get both when you drink these potions. Or, if you are the mage, you can actually unlock a healing spell, so you can heal yourself, but it'll cost you some mana. In my playthrough, I ended up basically making my mage more of a offensive powerhouse, meaning he really did a lot of damage with the spells that he had. I didn't diversify and buy 100 spells. I bought the most powerful attack spells. I leveled them up to maximum to the point where what my strategy was hit everyone with a spell that slowed them down, so there may be like 10 enemies on the screen and they all get slowed down. Then use your damaging spell when they're kind of stuck in place to whittle them down. Unfortunately, it seems like there are certain enemy types and certain bosses in this game that are made to be tackled by a certain character build. So if there were one or two bosses in this game that, as a mage, I had an insanely hard time beating, to the point where I would hit them once and have to run away for like 20 seconds but while they're trying to hit me until I get into an advantageous spot where I can hit them again and not get hit as like a counter to what I'm doing, and then run away again, because I knew if I faced him head up as a mage, he would have killed me in 2 to 3 hits. So there are some frustrating parts of the game where probably, depending on what build you picked, you're going to have hard boss fights, okay? Now, the game itself, now I'm going to grab my PS Vita to show you what I mean here. The game itself does actually take advantage of some of the motion controls and things of the PS Vita, okay? So there are some enemies that will hit you, and when they hit you, you get stuck. It's like you're stunned, and what the Vita wants you to do is shake, so you have to shake it like this, and then you'll unstick. It works, but not as well as you want it to, especially if you're in a heated battle, and you're surrounded by enemies. All of a sudden you get stuck. Fuck, I gotta move quick. You're trying to shake it, and maybe it's harder for him, you know, he doesn't unstick immediately, and it's pretty frustrating. Now, on the flip side of that, you don't have to use the motion controls whatsoever. Every single thing in the game that requires a motion control, also there's a way to do it just with the standard controls. So instead of shaking to unstick yourself from a stun, you can rotate the thumbsticks like this and you get out of it, and it's a lot easier than actually shaking the system. So it's kind of funny because they try to implement the Vita's unique control scheme, but really it's easier to just use the standard controls to do those kind of things. So another one. You can use the rear touchpad to maneuver your fairy around the screen. And what I mean is there's always going to be a fairy with you in this game, and the fairy can actually find hidden loot by looking around certain areas. It'll start to bleep like when it's in your hidden loot. And you can use the rear touchpad to try to move it around your screen, or you can just use the left thumbstick. So it's a lot easier just using the left thumbstick to do that. There are some really annoying things about this game. And I'd say the #1 annoying thing for me was that there's no targeting system whatsoever. Now what I mean by that is there's no way to, in particular, focus in on one enemy. Let's say there's 5 enemies on the screen, and you want to attack this enemy right here, not the one right here next to him. There's no way to just target this enemy. You have to just aim your thumbstick in the general direction of the enemy you want to attack, press the attack button, and hope that your guy will aim and attack for the right one. And it was very frustrating in certain parts of the game where I wanted to attack a boss who was standing right here, or maybe that one enemy out of a group, and my guy would attack every fucking other thing on the screen except the one I wanted to attack. And it's especially annoying with the mage, because the mage is using MP frequently, or mana, to cast these spells, and you may end up wasting your spell on the wrong enemy which you're trying to attack, and it's really frustrating. Why did they not put a targeting system in the game? That's kind of odd. Like I said, there are some parts of the game that are extremely hard depending on your build. Like, my mage had a real hard time with these two particular bosses where I really feel if I were a warrior and I were tanking out those fights, it would have been a hell of a lot easier. On the flip side of that, I feel that my mage actually was able to exploit certain things in the game, such as staying really far away from enemies and pelting them with my staff, you know, throwing fireballs and such, where I feel the warrior, if he had to get up in the thick of things and start fighting things hand to hand, it might have been a lot more difficult. Another really annoying thing about the game that I just don't understand at all. You'll be fighting enemies. So let's say there's 5 enemies. You're fighting them. Okay. You kill this one, you kill this one. This one's near you, but all of a sudden he's running out of life. There's this thing in the game called evade that only enemies can do. The enemy will literally stop in its tracks, decide that it doesn't want to fight you anymore. A word evade will appear above its head. The enemy will turn around and literally become as fast as the fucking Flash and just disappear off the screen. And it's frustrating because maybe you just used a lot of your MP or a lot of your abilities to damage this guy. Just because he decides he doesn't want to fight anymore, he can turn around and get away, and there's nothing you can do about it. He becomes completely immune to damage and too fast to do anything to. You can't stun him with a stun ability. He just gets away scot-free. And it makes no sense. Why did the game have this ability to just take an enemy who maybe you've been attacking for the past 10 seconds, and he just gets away scot-free if he decides to? And it's really frustrating in certain parts of the game where you're fighting maybe tougher enemy types. Maybe it's not the standard little grunt, but it's like one of the guys that has like high HP, and he's really damaging. So you're hitting him. Finally he's about to die. Oh, fuck you. He turns around and runs away, and then the worst part about this is he basically runs off screen. So okay, I have to go fight him again. So you take one step, the enemy will respawn with full fucking health. Even if he just had no health whatsoever, as soon as he walks off that screen, he gets all of his health back no matter what. So really, this is like an old game mechanic from games when they first started making this style of game, this dungeon crawling style of game. And I don't understand what the hell they were thinking when they put this in the game. So you're telling me at any time the game could just decide that this enemy I'm fighting can turn around, become completely invincible, get away, get a full health back, and then just run back on the screen and attack me? How is that fucking fair? It's not, and it's ridiculous, and it's amateurish, basically. It's amateur game design that's in the game. So even though the game is addictive and it does have some fun qualities to it, it just really has a lot of problems. The fact that you can't target things, the fact that the story is really weak, it's really more about just the action and addictive combat, the fact that certain character builds have really difficult times with certain fights, and the fact that this evade thing is in the game just baffles me. The length of the game. The length of the game is pretty good. I believe over the course of the week and a half that I played this on my Vita, I probably played it for about at least an hour or two every night. And so you're talking probably about maybe 10 to 15 hours of gameplay. Now keep in mind, that gameplay is extremely repetitive, combat-based gameplay. Sure, there will be times when you'll be in a town and you'll talk to vendors. Sure, there will be times, when you won't necessarily be doing combat, but 90% of the gameplay of this game is the same repetitive kind of combat over and over and over. So this is the kind of game I would recommend to someone who needs something to kill time. You're in a car on a road trip, or you're on a train, you're on a bus, and you need to kill time. You don't necessarily need to be focusing 100% on what you're doing, but you need to kill time. This is a time killer game. It's pretty much what this game is. This isn't a game that I would recommend to anyone who's looking for any kind of a cinematic experience, any kind of an interesting story. The graphics are kind of meh, and that's probably because, as people have told me, this thing's been ported to so many different things at this point that it wasn't really focused on the PS Vita. The graphics are good, don't get me wrong, and one cool thing about the game, the frame rate is actually really good. The frame rate stays at a solid 30 frames per second. In some parts of the game actually runs almost up to 60 frames per second. So in that respect, even with the 100 enemies that may be on the screen at once, the game never really slows down, and that's a positive for the game. But the graphics themselves are very simplistic, more like a lower-end PC game than anything else. Other games that I've played, definitely, such as Uncharted, have way better graphics than this game, so that's really nothing to write home about. Overall, it's pretty much just a repetitive action-based RPG experience. It's not that great. So for me to recommend this as a launch title for the PS Vita, I really can't. I would say this is more of a game that's just if you like that kind of time-waster game, and maybe it helps relax you, because I'll be honest, at night, when I'm sitting here and I'm relaxing on the couch and I just want to kill some time, while I watch catch up on some TV or whatever, this is the kind of game I like to play. It's actually difficult for me to play a game like Uncharted or something, because those games you have to kind of pay attention a little bit more to the story and the characters and what's going on, and it's not just an full action-based experience like this game is. So the thing is, the price tag. For me, I think this game would have been a great game as a budget title. If you sold this for $10, I would even go to say $20. This would be a good value, okay, for the amount of gameplay you're going to get out of it, and the fact that it's not a great game, but it is kind of addicting and you will get a lot of gameplay out of it. But to sell this as a fully priced retail game, I believe this is selling for anywhere between $30 to $40 right now for the PS Vita, is nuts. This isn't a full game, in my opinion. It's really just, it feels like this was designed for mobile devices, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a game. Like, just to give you perfect reference here, to have a game like Uncharted Golden Abyss that is a full cinematic experience, which really tried to make it like a real full retail Uncharted game, and then to sell this game for the same price is like insanity to me. So, in my opinion, if you're the kind of person that likes the repetitive grinding gameplay of a game like Diablo, of a game like Dungeon Siege, and you're not looking for a lot of story, you're not looking for amazing graphics or anything, or gameplay that's going to blow you away, then you might like this game, but I still don't feel that for the price that they're charging for it, that it's worth that, okay? So, what am I going to give it? As a rating, I'm going to say it's pretty much right down the middle average dungeon crawler. It's got problems, but it's got places where it shines. It's not horrible. I've played worse, that's for sure, but it's not a great game and it's overpriced. So I'm going to give Dungeon Hunter Alliance a measly average 5, okay? It's definitely not a game to run to the store and buy, but it's definitely not a horrible game. It's an okay game. And the fact that it's apparently been ported to so many different things and people buy it, I guess kind of assures that fact that it is an okay game. It's not a horrible game, or else it wouldn't have been pimped out the way that it was. So, Dungeon Hunter Alliance, 5 out of 10, right down the middle of the road. Nothing great, but nothing horrible. If you want a time killer, this will be your cup of tea, but I don't recommend paying full price for it. Wait for this guy to hit the bargain bin, or until the prices drop, and then I would definitely jump on it, okay? So that's it for my very first portable gaming Hateful Truth video game review. Maximum truth, minimum bullshit. That's the new slogan. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. And I hope you know whether or not you're interested in this game. Keep in mind, as I play more mobile games or more portable games, and by the way, I plan on doing this also with my Nintendo 3DS, not just with my PS Vita. I will be doing Hateful Truth reviews of those games to let you know whether or not you should jump on them. So, thanks a lot for listening. Hope it was informative. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time on the Hateful Truth. Thanks.